गिरधारी गोविंद राधे, श्री गिरधारी गोविंद राधे, श्री गिरधारी गोविंद राधे, राधे राधे हो राधे 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 राधे, श्री राधे राधे हो राधे राधे, 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 सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः।
Allow your eyes to close gently. And allow the body to settle comfortably and stably, but not rigidly, into a position you can be in without moving for a few minutes. Allow the senses to withdraw, pulling them from being focused on the sensations in the outer world or the thoughts being created in the brain. Pull the sensations, the awareness, the focus. Pull it all deeply inward. And allow that awareness to merge with your breath. Don't try to change the breath. Simply allow the awareness to merge into it. As it flows in and flows out. And allow the awareness of the breath to drop deeply in your abdomen. So it's not about breathing up in the chest and the rib cage, but allow that breath to come in and to flow out from a place that's low in your abdomen, below the belly button. It's a place called the Swadisthana Chakra. From that energy center, about 2 inches below the belly button, allow the awareness to rest there. As you inhale from there and exhale back into that energy center. If thoughts come, or sounds come, or sensations come, don't worry about them. Don't try to fight them off, but also don't allow your awareness to get hooked into them. Just keep drawing the awareness back to the breath. You can add the very simple mantra of so hum. You can chant silently to yourself, so on the inhalation and hum on the exhalation. It means I am that. I am one with the universe. I am all. I am divine. I am infinite. I am that. So hum. So hum. dropping deeper and deeper with each exhalation. Allowing that awareness to stay merged in the breath. Gently bring the palms of your hands together at chest level and rub them gently against each other. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. And lower the hands and open the eyes. Welcome to Satsang. What is karma yoga? So, karma literally means action. We tend to use it colloquially to mean that which you get. But those are more specifically the fruits of karma, the results of karma. Karma means action. Yoga means union. That's what the word means. Most of us tragically these days think it means a union of, my nose to my knees or my fingers to my toes. But it's actually a union of the self to the divine. So karma yoga is a union of the self to the divine by any name, any form. It doesn't matter how you conceive of that nameless, formless, infinite reality. But a union to that, to all, through action. And it's very interesting because I grew up in America, in California, and there was a saying when I was growing up in the sort of new agey world where people would say, we're not human doings, we're human beings. You should do less, be more. And I was young and impressionable, and I thought, okay, that sounds interesting. It never made a lot of sense. I had never been very inclined toward spirituality before coming to India and having this extraordinary experience on the banks of Mother Ganga. So I didn't pay much attention to it. But then when I started really learning about karma and about yoga, you realize, so the answer is not to act. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna makes it very clear you can't not act. There is no not acting. You could sit down, you could sit on your hands, you could put on a blindfold, you could stick earplugs in your ears, you're still acting. You're still doing. Because acts of omission, meaning what I'm not doing, are just as much actions as acts of commission, what I am doing. So for example, if somebody in front of me is starving, and I don't give them something to eat, well, that's an action. Most of us think giving them something is an action. Not giving them something is not an action, but it's also an action. It's not doing my duty. It's not fulfilling what I am supposed to fulfill in that moment, what I've been called to do in that moment. That is also an action. Not reaching down to help someone who has fallen is an action. And so Lord Krishna makes it very clear, you can't not act. And this is so clear when Arjuna says, I don't want to fight this battle. Sorry about that. I don't want to fight this battle. I'm going to just go off into the mountains. Fighting this is going to be too painful. It's going to accrue too much karmic fruit. And Lord Krishna says, not so fast. You can't not fulfill your duty, fulfill your dharma, and think that somehow you are absolved of action. We all are acting. So then the choice becomes, okay, well, so if everything I do is action, including sitting here on my hands with my eyes closed and earplugs in my ears, then what sort of action should I do? What to act, what to do? And karma yoga is the answer to that. What it means is use your actions to come into union with the divine. It's one of the three main paths, again, that are given in the Bhagavad Gita. The path of knowledge, Jnana Yoga. The path of love or devotion, Bhakti Yoga. And the path of karma or action, Karma Yoga. But while there are three different starting points, they all actually take you to the same place. Because the truth is, when you really love, you serve anyway. So even if you begin with bhakti, it turns into karma yoga. Think of someone you love. Anyone. Someone you really love. Don't you do things for them? Don't you sometimes wake up in the morning and make them breakfast in bed, or write them a poem or a song, or massage their feet? Something. Bring them a glass of water. It's an action out of love. So it may have begun with love, but the action is the most natural outcome of it. And this is true with all of them. So Gyan, karma, bhakti, this knowledge, action, love, they're just different ways into the same stream. But action is something that actually runs through it all, because engaging in a path of Jnana Yoga, a path of wisdom, well, that's also karma, that's also an action. To read is an action. To come to satsang is an action. To listen to a lecture, that's satsang. And that's karma. It's an action. To sit down to meditate, it's an action. So action is actually that which runs through it all. If I love God, I'm practicing bhakti yoga, and so I'm singing God's glories. Well, that's also an action. So karma yoga is very simply using our actions, using every minute, every moment of our life as a way to unite with God. It's also something that runs parallel to that, which is action rooted in unity. So remember, karma's action, yoga's union. So typically it's union through action, but it's also action rooted in unity. So that which I do that is rooted in my awareness of oneness is karma yoga. So it works both ways. Through the action you experience the union, and then once you've experienced the union, your actions are a reflection of that. And the beautiful thing is, anything can be karma yoga. Whatever you do, if you realize that you're doing it as a tool in God's hands, because of course this is then Lord Krishna's answer when Arjuna says, well then what to do? If I can't not act, what do I do about this cycle of karma? This cycle of birth and death? And Lord Krishna says, just surrender to me. Just be a tool in my hands. And so it becomes a path of, instead of thinking, what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of it? Instead of allowing it to be an action rooted in my ego or my fear or my indoctrination or what the next door neighbors are doing or what they're going to think. Instead of that, it's action rooted in emptying myself of all of that so that I can be just a vehicle, a vessel for the divine will to flow. And then it's karma yoga. Are there any questions that anyone has here before I take any of the others that came in advance? Okay, you'll get another chance in a moment, don't worry. I do not know the true meaning of love. I'm in a relationship and I want the best for her, but I sometimes end up arguing with her. Is arguing a part of love? So, it depends. Typically no, but of course, even in the scriptures, we have beautiful, beautiful stories of devotees arguing with God. The question what love is an energy that I experience within myself. And this is really important to realize, because otherwise, as we go through life, in relationships break, we have problems, we fight, someone cheats us, they betray us, they leave us, we fall out of love. All of these things happen. And then, of course, we're miserable. And we lose all of the joy that we had when we were in love. So it's important to understand what is love really? Because it isn't dependent upon another person acting or speaking or treating you the way that you think you want. Love is the energy that literally runs the universe. Love is the energy that makes everything happen. if you watch a flower blossom, watch a sunset, watch a river flow, watch a tree give apples. Right? The flower never smells its own fragrance. The tree never eats its own apples. The river never drinks its own water. Love is the nature of the universe that just keeps giving and giving and giving out of love. So love is the energy. And love is the energy, by the way, that keeps us existing on every level. As children, there is a disease, actually, that kids can have called failure to thrive, which is a medical illness. And it's a disease of children who are not malnourished. They're not physically sick. There's nothing actually wrong with them. They don't have any nutritional deficits, but they just don't grow. And it took doctors a very long time to realize that actually what was happening with these kids is they weren't being held. They weren't being loved. And that literally the absence of love, even with full nutrition, clothes, roofs, beds, whatever you need physically to live, nonetheless the body didn't grow. And so love is literally the energy that we need. And even once we've grown, we need it. You look around, you think how much people do just so that someone will love them. Right? We were talking last night about all of the illusions we have, the mistakes we make about whether we have to be beautiful or rich or this possession or this title or that cream, just so that I can be worthy of love. So love is the energy that we all need. And yet, we mistake it. We think of love actually as that which I experience when someone fills my holes. And the dilemma with that is it's very temporary. So if I'm moving through the world with an experience of, let's say I feel worthless, or I feel stupid, or I feel ugly, or I feel all of these things, and someone comes into my life and they say, oh my God, you are the most beautiful being in the universe. You are the most important, best, amazing creature on earth. Well, suddenly I no longer feel those holes. Suddenly all of what felt like holes that I was moving through the world with, and this person says, you're brilliant. Well, I'm no longer feeling the holes. The dilemma comes with that type of relationship that isn't real love, is that as time goes, people change. My holes change. My needs change as I grow, as I evolve, as I mature. What I needed moving through the world at 14 years old was very different from moving through the world at 24 or 44. If we're doing any emotional or spiritual evolvement at all, we're going to change. And of course, the other person's going to change. And so where in the beginning, he or she may have said, oh, God, you are so beautiful, you're so brilliant, you're everything. Well, maybe their vision of beauty and brilliance and everything changes. Now suddenly they're no longer filling my holes. Now I don't feel the love. Now I become miserable. Now we fight. What happened to you? And this is where understanding love is so important. Love isn't in the other person. Love is in you. The other person is a catalyst. There was a beautiful young boy here several years ago from London. He was 7 or 8 at the time. And after he'd been here for a week, he says to his mom, he says, "It feels like someone has reached into my heart and turned the switch from off to on." You think, God, where do these kids come up with that? I mean, so perfect. So that's what happens. Someone, some experience, some relationship switches your heart switch from off to on. It starts that internal love manufacturing plant that had been dormant for a while. And now suddenly in this person's presence, after that experience, that manufacturing plant is on in full swing, manufacturing lots of love. And that's beautiful, and that's where we feel so great. People who are in love are the best people in the world to be around. Even if you're not the one they're in love with, it doesn't matter. They're nicer. They're more helpful. They're bigger tippers in restaurants, right? In the workplace, they're the ones offering to do other people's work. Yeah, sure, no problem. Go for lunch. I'll do it. They're just in general. And this is where kiddingly people say, "Oh, what happened to you," right? Because we sense it. We know this person is in love. It's that extraordinary energy. But it exists within you. And so when we speak about unconditional love, real love, what it means is that I am experiencing the presence of love in me through you. And that what I love in you, that experience, is my soul connecting to your soul, my spirit to your spirit, my essence to your essence. If it's just my body to your body, it's lust. If it's my needs to how you fulfill them, that's what we call a business arrangement. That's a contract. That's not love. So love isn't about what someone says or does. It's about who they are. And so if you find that your love for someone is going up and down based on how they speak to you, how they act, doesn't mean you have to get out of the relationship, but it means you may want to drop a bit deeper. Because it means you are loving them from your needy thinking mind, rather than loving them from the essence of your soul. Because if their tone of voice or their words or their actions make you no longer feel love, it means your mind has turned off that love manufacturing plant. You've decided, okay, forget it. But you've done that. And so real love is, can you keep that love manufacturing plant on? Regardless of how much you may appreciate or like or approve of the person's words or actions or tone. Because of course it doesn't mean that we enjoy everything they do. It doesn't mean that we say, "Oh, that was great, could you lie to me again? That was great, let's do it again next week." It's not that. But it means that just because you have acted out of ignorance or fear or desire or ego doesn't mean that I'm going to shut off that manufacturing plant of the energy that I need more than anything in the world. So allow yourself to be in love. Even if the person who has turned that on for you turns out to be a liar, a cheater, a crook, and it turns out you're better off without them in your life, so be it. But you can still feel love. The fact that they turned out to be a liar or a cheat or a crook doesn't mean that you should now deprive yourself of the experience of love. Because remember, that experience is within you. It's not in them. They've catalyzed it, yes, but it exists within you. They get up, they walk out of the room, you don't feel any less love. If it were coming from them, you would feel less love the physically farther they got. But you don't. They get in the car, they drive across the city to work, you still feel love. It's not coming from them. It's coming from within you. And so thank them, regardless of what a crook they may have turned out to be. Because for whatever divine reason, they turned on your internal love manufacturing plant. But now that it's on, recognize that. That is your gift to yourself. Keep producing it. Not for them, but produce it in general. Love the sunset. Love the tree. Love babies. Love anything. I mean, when we get hurt, it's very hard sometimes to immediately open our hearts to another being again. It's all right. Love a tree. Love a flower. Love a mountain. Love God. Love yourself. Love anything. Doesn't matter. All that matters is that you stay connected to that love production plant, because that is you. And when that plant is not on, we've literally capped the life force from within us. And so don't allow someone else's stupidity or someone else's greed or someone else's ignorance or someone else's ego or confusion to deprive you of the flowing of the energy of your life force, your truth. Keep loving. And if you find that you're arguing, ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it really worth whatever we're arguing about? Is it really worth not feeling love in this moment? Because it's hard to feel anger and love at the same time. Not impossible, just challenging. So ask yourself, when you're feeling anger, when you're feeling frustration, ask yourself, is it worth it? My dad is a divorce attorney and has spent 40 years, 50 years divorcing people. And he's a very wise man and has been married to my mom for a very, very long time, and has a teaching that he gives young men when they're first married, or couples who are fighting and contemplating getting divorced. And the teaching is very simple. He says, you only have two choices in a marriage. You can either be right or you can be married. You can't be both. And so for him, because it's about marriage, he uses marriage, but I would say you can either be right or you can be in love. You can be right or you can be in peace. And so with each argument, ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it really worth consciously, deliberately dropping out of love in this moment? Dropping out of peace in this moment? Is it worth it? Is whatever we're fighting about really worth it? Usually it's not. And realize that regardless of what the other person has said or done, you have the opportunity every moment to choose love. Doesn't necessarily have to be love for that person. It can be love for yourself, for your capital S self that's evolving and expanding and deepening and realizing. Can be love for the beautiful flower in the plant next to you while you're having a fight with somebody who's trying to pull you out of love into anger. Do whatever you need to do in that moment to drop back into love. Just choose love. And eventually you'll be able to feel it back for that person again. But if you can't feel it for them in that moment, close your eyes. Feel it for anyone. Feel it for anything. Just choose love in that moment. Don't allow the anger to pull you out of it. Don't allow it to pull you out of peace or pull you out of truth. Because anger becomes like looking at the world through one of those, toilet paper tubes or paper towel tubes. It's just like all you can see is that tiny little vision. It narrows our vision. Don't allow that to happen. The point is expansion, not contraction. Are there any questions that anyone here has? Yes.
How can one go on and deal with their fears?
Fears.
So,
Yes.
So where I live and the people I've known, everyone has their fears, and I personally have a fear of judgment. So when I want to do something good to serve my friends, to serve humanity in any way, and I know the reality, the fear is not me.
Yeah.
When I'm gonna die, the fear is not me. It's not gonna serve me or anyone. And but subconsciously.
No, the fear keeps going until you realize the only way to deal with fear is to realize that, first of all, that which we fear, as you just said, even if you begin by talking about fear of judgment, ultimately at the end where we are is fear of death. And if you say to most people, what are you afraid of? And they say judgment or humiliation or shame or failure or this or that. Ultimately, if you go, okay, and then what? And then what? And then what? It always ends up in, and then I die. Even if our experience is thinking we're going to die of shame or physically die, it's and then I die. I cease to exist. And the truth is, you are going to die. Every one of us is going to die. And so the minute that we actually, not just intellectually, but experientially, are aware that not only are we going to die, but we are dying in every minute. We are walking closer to death every single minute. And so that ultimate thing that you fear, that worst case end result of the judgment, of the failure, of the shame, of the humiliation, of the loss, that end of the line, worst comes to worst situation of then I die, well, it's going to happen. It's the only guarantee. The only way around that is to realize you are not that which dies. You are not that which is shamed or humiliated or fails or is judged. The physical body, the identity, the history, the personality, the ego, this dies. But the truth of who you are, you're not those things. And the way that we know you're not those things is, how many times has your physical body changed? How old are you? 24. Okay, so every cell in your body has pretty much regenerated at least 3 times so far. About every 7-8 years. Every cell of the body is regenerated. The skin cells are every few days. Blood cells, organ cells, longer. But the longest takes 7-8 years. So every cell of your being has regenerated. But you still say I. Who's the I? What is it that's been continuous? You've been saying I since you were about 2 years old. But when you said I at 2, and then I at 12, and I at 22, and I at 24, what's consistent? Not the identity that we have about ourselves. If I said to your 2-year-old self, who are you? You'd tell me all sorts of fun things. If I said to your 12-year-old self, who are you? You'd tell me all sorts of different fun things. If I say to you today, who are you? Give me a different story. Something connected with this fear of judgment that my identity is wrapped up into not being judged, not being seen in a negative light. But that's all story. It's not who you are. So when you focus on finding out who you really are, who is the you that isn't, soul. But that's an intellectual answer. You've got to feel that. Who is the you that can't be judged? Who is the you that doesn't need to be good enough? Who is the you who will never die? The more time you spend, the more energy you spend, the more attention you spend, rooted in that, the less attached you are to what people think of you, because you realize they're not seeing the true self. And you realize they're only judging me. Anybody who judges you, anyone, is living in their own jail of judgment. We only give to others that which we create inside, right? We were talking about the love manufacturing plant. So I can only give you love if I first start manufacturing it in myself. In the same way, I can only create hell for you if I'm manufacturing hell inside of me. Which means that all those people who create misery for others, who bring about pain and suffering for others, well, realize they're creating it in themselves. They're manufacturing it within them. And so if I'm going to be judging you, it means within me is the mechanism, and it's on, and it's functioning, and it's on overdrive, that is seeing in separation, that is seeing in judgment, that is seeing in illusion, in darkness, in ignorance. And so you stopped being bothered by that. And you start feeling compassion for that. Because you realize if they're judging me, they're in their own jail. But you make sure to stop judging yourself. Because other people's judgment of us only really stings if we judge ourselves. My favorite way of thinking about this is if you say to me, "Oh my God, that is the most ugly purple mohawk I've ever seen." Wouldn't impact me at all because I know I don't have a purple mohawk. So I'm not going to worry. I'm not going to feel like, "Oh my God." I'm not even going to go like this. I don't have to do this. I know I don't have a mohawk. But if you say something to me that I'm already in doubt about myself or that I'm already thinking about myself, it's going to sting. If you talk to me about my purple mohawk, you insult my purple mohawk, I'm just going to think either you're crazy or you're blind. Right? One or the other. Either you can't literally see and you actually think I have a purple mohawk, or your eyes are fine but your brain is bad. One or the other, right? Either the eyes are bad or the brain is bad because I clearly don't have a purple mohawk. So in the same way, if someone is judging you and you know it's not true, it's not going to sting. It's only going to sting if I think what they're saying is true because I'm already judging myself for it. And this is where only when I know the truth of myself, like I know I don't have a purple mohawk. So in the same way, I know that I'm not any of those things that I may be judging myself for. I know I'm enough. I'm whole. I'm full. I'm complete. I'm divine. I'm pure. I'm love. I'm truth. When I know I am all those things, then I feel compassion for people who either their eyes are bad or their brain is bad. But I don't move through the world afraid of them.